Hi guys, I'm Elise Troutman and I'm going to be presenting these slides virtually, but let's take a look at the situation of Hoops with numbers. So currently they do about 4,100 surgeries per year, but when looking at the capacity they have for growth, they could do about 75 max per year, which is about 79% growth capacity. Not saying that it's likely they would do that many, but this is just showing there's significant room for growth. So Hoops is the number 2 in unaided awareness, which is super significant, especially when we take a look at market share, because this is the most important metric. So Hoops currently has about 35% of the market share, meaning they sit at a high elevated brand standpoint, and this is why we need to play defense in order to support our high pricing. Currently, Hoops sits about a 17% profit margin, and here's the issue we're running into. Our competition is having our prices, so how do we compete with those competition? I think the main important metric to look at here is that we have 35% of the market share, and it is important that we take a stance to defend our premium pricing because apparently we're currently aware of both our brand and are willing to pay that premium price. So competition having their prices isn't necessarily the issue here, especially when we're still bringing in a 17% profit margin. As competition halves their prices, that means their profit margins also halve. Let's take a look at our numbers here. So we have our billings, our collections, and our co-management fees. We also have royalty fees for every time we use the lasers and our fixed costs. Of course, ideally, we would love to change our fixed costs, but those are kind of set in stone. So what if we look at our co-management fee? That's about $930 million per year, and maybe we can make some changes there. Let's dive a little further into the numbers. So Hoops Vision here has a list price of $18.50, but for the sake of clarity, let's use the price they actually received. So $15.73 is the dollar per eye they actually received in 2005, and they did 4,188 total procedures, and this gave us an estimated gross income of $6.5 million. And for this, that would leave us with about $1.1 million in estimated profits. Let's do the same exact math and compare to all of the following. Here we have the numbers and you can see we double the profits as our second closest competitor. This just solidifies that our stance as a premium service provider is exactly where we need to remain. And if you look at the graph on the right, you can see how significant our profit margin is, especially in comparison to the other smaller brands. And this is because we charge that premium price and we have the ability to gain more profits. For this sake, we did use the profit margin of 17% just for comparison's sake, but we are unaware of those exact profit margins for the other companies, but one can suspect they are likely smaller. Let's reference back to those fixed and variable costs we were discussing earlier and how we would love to change those because they're eating into our profit margins. So our fixed costs are unlikely to change, especially as we think about the royalty fees and our high quality lasers, because that is what sets us apart and gives us the ability to charge the premium pricing. So for the variable costs, let's look at that. The co-management fee is the largest fee, and it's about $930 million every year that we have to pay back to these optometrists. So what if we look at it from a different perspective? Obviously this is working, it's 60% of our business. What if we grant 25% back to those optometrists instead of 20%? Would that motivate them more to promote our services? Let's take a look. For the first test, I wanted to be very conservative and just think about the fact that they may already be pushing our services to a higher regard. So it could bring about 118 new patients, which would bring our total to 4,300 per year. So with bringing that and taking into consideration, we're paying out 25% across the entire year for comparison's sake. That actually would make our payouts larger than the new profit we would earn from these potential 118 new patients. So maybe I'm being a little bit too conservative here, and let's say we were able to get 500 new patients by increasing that co-management fee. 500 new patients would make our new profit about $900,000, but we'd be sitting about $450,000 in additional payouts, which would mean we would only be making about $450,000 in additional revenue, which is so granular on the grand scheme of things, and it almost is not even worth it. And keep in mind, this is assuming we even get 500 new clients based on this small margin. So here is where we really decided between not being able to change fixed costs and hardly being able to improve on variable costs. This is how we decide this is not a financial issue. This has become a marketing issue.